Buongiorno, buon pomeriggio, e buonasera, Lazio world. Welcome to our instant reaction pod here with a little stoppage time to chat about Lazio Monza. I'm your host, Sean McIntosh, rejoined by my co-host, Caleb Adams. Caleb, we're going to jump right into this. I know you are short on time, and we've got goals and goals galore to discuss. So let's jump in real quick where we always do, because I think particularly with this starting lineup, not a ton of changes. We know what Baroni wants to do, but we do have one very important key piece back with us, Nuno Tavares, and then the rest of the 11 kind of speaks for itself, but he is a difference maker, and I think you saw it right away. The impact that he had 6 minutes in, nice little run from him, fires it across frame, keeper forced to make a save. You see a ton of chances over and over again. You see a Lazio side dominant on the ball, dominant on defense, creating chances. It's not until the 31st minute that Tati sees a ball played into him and then does a really nice job of heading it across the face of goal for Marusic to head it in. And from there, the floodgates really open up for the rest of the match. Give me your 3 words or less, Caleb, to describe this match.
Yeah, I'm gonna say keeping up pace. We've been seeing a lot of the teams around us in and around the table getting their results, and we've had to win these games. Right. And every game seems like a must win at this point, right? Just to keep pace and try and stay in the top 4 and hang in there. And so it's good to see the team just getting the job done. I think another thing that I liked about this game was that we had a better start, right? Like we've been really slow to start these past games, even against inferior sides, but we were really dominant and in control from the start and throughout the whole match. So it's good to see that. But yeah.
Yeah, you said keeping up pace. I think it's important to take a quick look at the live table now. Lazio back in that 4th spot after 24 matches played. They see themselves with 45 points, just 2 ahead of Juventus and 5 behind Atalanta, who continues to do what they do. But you've got Napoli in first, having only played 23 matches. Inter as well, only 23 matches in second. Atalanta, Lazio, Juve, and then Fiorentina, who still has a match in hand, having only played 23 with 42 points. And then Milan, who all of a sudden look like a different side, creeping up at 38 in 7th in the table. And then, of course, all the way down in 9th place, our friends on the other side of the city, who keep being gifted penalties, and then if they're not being gifted penalties, they are being in not given penalties in situations where they probably should. So, but for me, the 3 words is complete dominance, and it was really on every side of the ball, every phase of this game, run of play, defense, just the way we were linking up. Quick run through of our stats: 61% possession for Lazio, an expected goal difference of 2.87 for Lazio, so far exceeding our expected goals, which is nice to see from a side that typically isn't clinical enough. And then Monza only 0.9. Now, important to note here that 0.9 comes from a penalty. Really, really unfortunate there. Lazio 26 total shots to Monza's 3. 9 of those shots on target, which, you hope for a little bit of a better ratio. Monza only 1 shot on target. That, of course, is the penalty. I think just, again, every phase, it was nice to see a Lazio that, as you said, started off incredibly sharp. And you always worry about this side when they don't score, if they would hold up and keep up that level of intensity, that level of focus. Not only did they do that up through the goal, but they continue to pour in more and more chances, more and more goals. And we quite nearly were able to see that clean sheet. You quite nearly saw a side that kept focus for all 90 minutes until, of course, that moment that Lazio has his arms up and has the ball hit his hands. Talk to me a little bit where you thought Lazio won this match.
Man, I thought the interplay in the attack was really good, and I think it just shows a difference. And funny enough, it seems that fullbacks heavily dictate how dangerous we look in the attack. We look at it. We look at the last game with Hisai coming in and being a little more attacking on that right side. How it sort of boosted Isaksen a bit, allowed a little bit more um, dynamism, in the attack. In this case, Tavares, no secret, has been our best playmaker. Period. I mean, um, and his effect on the ball, his interplay with Zaccagni, completely changed the dynamic of the team. And I just liked a lot of the movement that I saw. I think that Nuno, even like the Marusic goal, was an example of a move where I don't know if it was instruction or instinct on his part, but there was a gap, there was a lane opening up. He filled it, boom, had an open goal, scored. I think that is on Baroni. I do think Baroni is like instructing these people to, the fullback, don't be afraid to just run into those gaps if you see them there, particularly against a side like Monza, right? Will we take those risks against an Inter? Maybe, probably not. But that was the biggest thing for me, was just the front four, how the front four were interplaying with the fullbacks, how Ravella and Guendouzi were cleaning up and sweeping up anything that came through. We really did a good job of suffocating them, and thankfully we were able to score a goal, because like you said, if we go into the half 0-0, that's not feeling great. We have been more of a second half team in general, but it was good to see the front four having some connections and interplay.
Yeah, and look, I mentioned it to start when we talked about our starting 11 and the impact of Nuno, and this will segue into man of the match and that conversation. But we've talked about Rovella being the most important player and likely MVP of this side, and without him, there are lots of problems. And I still think that's absolutely true, no doubt. For me, he's the most critical piece of this team. But man, does Nuno have some shouts for MVP of this team because of what he does and how he allows everybody else to play a little bit more free, to have space around them.
Yeah.
And he just puts a defense on their heels like no other player on our team. He's so dangerous. And while he's probably not there's other players that maybe have did too much statistically to like earn a man of the match, but it's really hard for me not to give it to Nuno, just seeing the impact he has. He starts off the match, and like in my notes, I have like 3 consecutive notes where it's like, Nuno dangerous, right down the flanks, like opens up space, like crosses a ball in, and it just makes Monza panic and worry. And there's dangerous balls in the box that we don't quite get to early enough, but he's creating this. And we're just so much more fun. Again, you think about this side. We start the year and it's like, wow, this team is fun. They create. Nuno's racking up assists. Nuno's gone, and all of a sudden we can't find a goal to save our lives. And I will put the stipulation: this is a bad Monza side. This is a Serie B side. But when Nuno wasn't around, we were really struggling to create, and we just saw so much. So he just unlocks a ton for us. He is Baroni's magic wand in so many ways. So give me your man of the match for this.
Yeah, honestly, Tavares for me was one of the leading guys. I'm going with Tati. He had 2 assists, had a goal. I thought it was pretty dangerous. I think was doing a good job. Also, he was a part of that movement and part of that interplay. Set up the goal really nicely to Marusic off the header. Had a clean little pass to Pedro, who also, has a shout too to be a man of the match this game. Comes in, scores 2 goals, clinical goals. Probably the best finisher on the team. I mean, not even probably. I think he is the best finisher on the team with both feet. And then, of course, finishes off the night with a really, really great goal. Takes it nicely, 1 touch into the bottom right corner. Looked bright, in games like this, right? I mean, again, the quality Monza is it kind of diminishes some of the things. Regardless, we have struggled to score against teams that are very low on the table and create chances. And Tati has not been the guy who needed to be. He hasn't been the person and striker he needs to be, the leader in a game like this in the past, right? Against a poor side, it's like, okay, you got to step up, Tati, right? Like you're the line. He did so today. Again, I'll keep saying it. I really don't know why he doesn't play attacking midfielder or second striker. Two of the assists that came from, right? I mean, one was off the header, but a lot of the ball that he plays to Pedro, he's playing more as behind the striker. Pedro comes and plays more as a 9. But yeah, it's good. It's good for him. He has now 2 goals, I think, consecutively. Getting a little bit of consistency here. And so that's good to see. He's on, I think, 9 goals for the season. So I had him at 15. We'll see if he can get there. But yeah, we need him to keep scoring.
Yeah. On Tati's piece, look, we've talked about this 100 times. I don't think he's quite an attacking midfielder. I don't know that would work. I don't know that I agree with that piece, but I do think he can play that second striker role fabulously, and he needs to be in more advanced positions with a partner. And today he's my man of the match for all those same reasons. He was fantastic off the ball, his movement, and while he can be frustrating when it comes to his finishing, he had a really nice finish today, but he does a ton for his teammates, and he does so much to set them up. And things like heading the ball across goal for Marusic, I mean, that's just great striker work. I know people look at a striker and they just want to see the 20 to 30 goals and, hey, maybe he's not a striker. Well, that's striker work. He's doing the work there. The ball he plays to Pedro is it's fantastic work on his end to play the ball. It's also fantastic run by Pedro, who's just brilliant. I mean, that guy from an IQ standpoint, it's why he can play so many positions. It's why he can come in and play Diaz's role, and then late in the match be shifted back to Isaacsen's spot out wide, and then still find himself in the box. He's slide tackling like a little maniac, at the end of games. He's just a player that is definitely reborn under Baroni. But incredible match by Tati. Walks away with 2 assists, the all-important goal that we're always calling for. So you got to give it to him in this one. Big shout out to Isaacsen too. He played really, really well. I know we were talking about this in our group chat. I do want to see, and I am seeing rightfully so. Like you can only do what you can do against the players and the teams in front of you. So hats off to Isaacsen, but we need to see this against stronger sides. Doing it against Serie B level Cagliari and Monza, it's good, and I hope it builds his confidence up. But it was a bit of a different Isaacsen today. You see him confident, taking on defenders. Was able to beat them, and he was able to play in some pretty dangerous balls. And his final product was a little bit better. You wish he would have walked away with a goal or an assist, but that doesn't always matter. He was really influential. What do you think about his performance?
Yeah, I think Isaacsen's actually been pretty consistent lately. He's been, I think he's actually been just kind of better across the board. I liked his delivery has been a little better. His decision making has been a little bit better. He seems a little more, I would say, maybe proactive in the way he attacks. I think before he would just be like, just go, 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 go. He's now sort of like looking up, seeing what's there, taking that space. It's good to see. Again, that next step for him is, can you become more than just an okay Serie A player? Because right now, I think we both kind of agree that Isaacsen is very much just a pretty average Serie A player. Like, he could play on a mid-table team, 11th, 12th, 13th spots, and be like, that's kind of where he's at for me. He's not a Lazio starter, particularly when you have players like Zaccagni and Tavares who just you can just tell a different class. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Look, I mean, a bad Zaccagni performance would be like today, and it still was like a fine performance. He had some moments where you're like, man, he's got to You got to be sharper in some of those moments, but he still also had those nice Zaccagni moments where he's breaking down a defense. He was a terror, and his final product was off, but then still walks away with an assist. And so that's what you kind of hope on the other side, where a poor Isaacson performance should mirror some of these Zaccagni performances. But a bad Zaccagni performance is generally like pretty bad, or he's entirely invisible. I'll say Zaccagni again today was not a great performance, but he most certainly wasn't invisible. He still had his stamp on the match, good and bad.
Yeah, he had those bad moments in the final third there to finish that you want to see him finishing, but I thought he actually had a really good game. Like I thought he was very dangerous. Him combining with Nuno was great today.
Yep.
Zaccagni still is like, we talk about players that have some of the the best touches. We think of Neymar, Verratti, these guys. Like for me, Zaccagni is a player that has one of the best first touches I've ever seen in the modern game. Like it's just the little things he's just one of those players that I think if you either don't play the sport or understand just how difficult some of the stuff that he makes look easy, you just don't appreciate him because he makes things look so simple that are very difficult. The way he receives the ball, the way he's able to sort of use his fakes and he's sort of shifting to get people off balance, the way he dummies people. Like you have to defend Zaccagni with two people. You're gonna lose every time one-on-one. That's kind of like what Saxon has to sort of live up to, right? And it's difficult. It's a new pressure. It's not like he came from City already. He's coming from outside the league in a smaller Danish league, and so it's a difficult jump. But anyways,
Before Bidone, I do want to say it was nice. Again, we talk about Rovella, but in this one, he is able to pick up the all-important assist. It's coming off of another game where he had a really nice assist as well, but assist on Dele Bashiru's goal in the 88th minute late. Another just sublime Rovella performance. I mean, he was coming off of a match where he was 78 for 78 on passes. This one, 89 for 94, 95%. Honestly, I was watching because knowing he came off of a match where he was 100%. I didn't even notice that he misplayed like 3 balls. I was paying attention and I was like, he's literally perfect. And he does so much of this where it allows your forwards to just press and maybe make riskier passes. Just paying attention to him, just the ultimate connector, and allows for possession to stay alive. And it was another fantastic underrated performance. And anytime he can walk away with that statistic that everybody is looking for was really, really nice. So give me your beat on it, because I had one very clear one, and I thought both of my contenders were probably both players off of the bench. But who'd you have?
I just had Lazzari.
Yeah.
It was just a dumb penalty to give away. Like the way like, how are you jumping your hands like this? I don't understand.
It's so soft, man. Like he's jumping before contact. His hands are up before contact, so you can't even complain. But yeah, he's like, really, really soft. He's already a frail human, and so like you gotta show some level of strength. Hit the weight room, man. Like, or at least pretend like you've got something to you. You got a little bit of mass, but it was really soft. I mean, even when he subbed in, he had a moment where it was like typical Lazzari, and okay, he beats a guy, and then his final delivery is just so piss poor. But then aside from that, he was largely invisible until that moment that he was just really, really poor. And then
real quick, it was also odd how late they were calling that penalty. It's like, oh wait, guys, hold on, like if it was Roma, we'll let it slide, like whatever, the game is dead anyway. But hold on, guys, it's Lazio. Let me just call a penalty like 5 minutes later.
Yeah, look, I will.
It was a penalty.
It was a penalty. It was stupid. It was unnecessary. Hold your ground. Be a little bit stronger. Don't widen your stance and your arms unnecessarily. So unfortunate, because Provedel obviously didn't have anything to do. And then we talked about his penalty. I think it's the case of like, and I know we were talking about it offline, but Provedel, like Tati in so many ways, just unlucky. I think does everything right on there to get to the ball. But I don't know. It's to me, it's not. It's probably a good example of why you're not benching Provedel, because he's not making mistakes, right? Like you could look at that and you could. I know you're very hard on like, oh, he should have parried it stronger. I look at it as like he did everything. It's not on him. We were fortunate enough to even get a hand on it. Um, Not necessarily any sort of a goalkeeping mistake that you would typically bench somebody for. Maybe you want him to do better, but it's one of those ones where I thought he was a bit unlucky
No,
to
man,
not make the save.
that's fair. I mean, my issues with Pro are whatever. It's penalty. I think the keeper deserves a lot of grace on penalties, and in a game like this. But like my issue with Provedel is that he has not been reliable this season. That's my main issue. Like for me, a goalkeeper is. I don't even need you to be amazing. Just as long as you can keep your saves to what you're expected to save, we're cool. Like I'm fine. I just think he's been below that, and the stats reflect that. But in this case, like in the situation, Provo does everything right. Like we give Tati a lot of crap for doing everything right, but scoring goals. So that's his job. So I think if you use that argument, it's like okay, Provo he did right, but like he just parried it in the back of the net. Like oh man, he did everything right, but if we're using that same sort of if we're just as hard on Tati about that, it's like yeah, he's doing everything right, but like you still got to put that away, man.
Yeah,
It's
but
like, hey,
we're
he did
also
everything
not
right, but you got to
calling
save
for
it.
Tati to not be on the team, to not have his place. Like
We,
that's why I
I
think it.
think we were. I mean, even I was like entertaining the
Yeah,
idea of like,
maybe. I
even now,
guess
like,
I
is this?
just don't. I see it as different in a case like, because his defense oftentimes letting him down. Today, case in point, like should have walked away with a clean sheet. It wasn't on Provedel, like he didn't earn the clean
Oh yeah,
sheet,
I
so to
mean,
say.
I
But it's
agree.
just versus, in so many cases, the frustrations is that Tati would get set up and he's just got to finish it. So
Yeah,
I
I
see
mean,
your
it's different.
point. I
It's a
think
different
it's
position.
still really different, but again, another one where his defender lets him down, and we should have been walking away with a clean sheet. But it's a big 5-1 victory. I thought Dele Bashiru was an interesting one. I thought he started off pretty poor too, and he had that moment in attack where he's got a darting Rovella for him, and he elects to take it himself, and immediately after that he also turns the ball over, but then he walks away with a goal. So it's a very clear bidone for Lazio. What do you think of the substitutions? Because I think if there's one gripe to have with Baroni today, if we're nitpicking, I thought maybe some of the substitutions weren't exactly what I wanted to see. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I understand the shouts of bringing in some of the new guys like Ibrahimovic, the new guy from Verona. How you pronounce his name? Do you know?
I don't. I know. I
Belerian.
mean,
I do think I understand the thought process of hey, why are we not playing these kids? Like this, when you're not going to play in this game, when you're going to play. But you also have to realize that they've been here like 2.5 weeks, and these guys have been here for literally a few like a days. And I don't expect I'm thinking about only like I'm not gonna throw the guys who've been with me from preseason, Shauna, De La Bashiru, Noslin, and just say, yeah, you guys are not playing this game because we just got some new blood in here, a bunch of kids too. Like, I mean, we were listening. I mean, we all said too, like, hey, hopefully we don't have to play these guys, but we just need the bodies. Like, yes, I understand playing them, but like, dog, it's been 2.5 weeks since since Ibrahimovic, who's 19, keep in mind, and these two guys that just got arrived literally not even a week ago. So
okay.
I
So
think they're gonna get integrated. I just think we're being like a little too. I think once Europa League starts coming in, I think we're being a little too antsy about seeing them.
I will say, so I mean, Ibrahimovic, it's been a few weeks now, and you're training every single day. I mean, at what point, right? If other teams can integrate players right away, and I know we're talking about different level of players, where Juve and Koluamani, like different level of player, but we're talking about Monza. We're talking about a side that's going to be relegated to Serie B. We're talking about being up 3-4 goals, if not in a match like this, how are we going to trust them during the rest of the season? And you've got a player in, let's just call him Reda. So Belayani. I mean, he's played for Verona. He's played in Serie A. He should be a little bit more plug and play for a Rovella who is at risk of being suspended against Napoli. Massive match, right? If he gets a yellow today, he's not playing in that. Why not throw him in there to one, besides the yellow, even forget the yellow. Rovella needs a break. Rovella, Guendouzi, both of those guys are being run into the ground. If not against Monza, then, yeah, sure, you want things to be perfect and they want to be integrated, but yeah, we want the bodies. Well, the bodies we need so that we can get some level of a break. Like, I don't need those guys coming in against Napoli in a game that's tied or we're up or down by one goal. Sure, I understand that, but against Monza, that's I think probably the frustration is get Rovella out so he doesn't risk suspension or injury, and then get some of these guys some all important playing time that is low risk. Chauna, sure, it's nice, but I think he understands. I think the rest of the team would understand the moment. Like, they're gonna get their Europa, their Coppa Italia time, and they'll even see important minutes. But in a match like this where there's no risk, at least if I'm thinking the mentality of a player, I'm not going to be upset if I'm Chauna. Like, am I going to be upset that I'm not getting, garbage time? Like, if anything, I look at that as like,
I mean, when is he going to come in against Napoli? Like, I don't know. I as a player, yeah, 100%. Like, dang, I can't even come into garbage time of a match. I don't know what I'm going to play again. We have Napoli next.
But if you've got these players here, you go, okay, like, clearly it's a low risk. I understand why they're going to get those minutes instead of me. I mean, Chauna played in the Derby.
I understand. I understand that if you're Pedro, but Shaun is a year older than these guys.
Yeah, but it's not about the age at this point. It is about using garbage time with zero risk. Absolutely no risk. If I'm Chauna, do I want to be a player that is going to get a pat on the back minutes? Just like, oh, cool, you're part of the club. We're going to toss you out against Monza in the last 10 minutes when we're up by 4. No, I don't need those minutes, right? I think at the very least, give it to these guys so we can all see what they look like, so Baroni can see what they look like, so they can start getting a little bit of familiarity. I don't know. I see those as more valuable minutes to give to them versus a Chauna or Dele Bashiru.
For sure.
Sure, getting playing time is always nice, but I don't know.
No, I look. I personally would have loved to see the new guys today. I make that very clear. I don't think we need to see Dele Bashiru. For me, I think Belayane coming in for Rovella, that should have been 100% a thing. Just simply to protect Rovella. That's it. That's the main thinking there, right? I would love to see the guys get your minutes there. I do also think that, like, I'm not as upset, I think, as other fans. The only one I'm upset is keeping. I'm like, we're gonna see these guys. Europa League's coming up. I think we'll get a chance here. Regardless, I'm not like heated about it, Like, it's
of course. Like I said, it's nitpicking. We won 5-1. Not a ton to be upset about. We do have everybody available for Napoli, which brings me to our fixtures. Next weekend, Saturday, February 15th, Lazio, Napoli. We of course know what has happened the last 2 times we played Napoli this season. So the question is, can we continue that form? It's nice to have won back-to-back matches going into this, feeling good about ourselves. And then it's Venezia before we hit Coppa Italia with a big one against Inter, and then back to league play with Milan. Goes without saying, massive matches, important in our run to hopefully clinch in a top 4. I guess my question before we close this out, Caleb, because we always talk about where should focus be? Do we want to focus on league play? Do we want to focus on Europa? Typically, that is an easy one to answer because we are either out of Europa or struggling in Europa. We're kind of out of the top 4 mix. So we're like, well, obviously, let's focus on this over that. here's an interesting one where we are in every competition, and we are not only in these competitions, but pretty deep into them. Quarterfinals of Coppa Italia against Inter. We are obviously in the knockout phases of Europa, having finished top of the table, and we are currently top 4 in Serie A. Give me your focus. Which one you taking?
I mean, I'm taking Europa. For me, that for me is what I'm taking all the way. I think this is super winnable. I mean, it is super winnable. Looking at the teams in Europa League, the better ones are like a Manchester United, which is a joke of a team right now.
Tottenham, who, let's be honest, is not going to win a trophy.
Yep, exactly. What else we have here? We have like Tottenham also struggling. Frankfurt, Lyon, inconsistent teams in their leagues. And then you have the likes of like these Ajax, Real Sociedad, Roma, like, and then a bunch of like Eredivisie teams. Like, this is super winnable. I mean, this is really, really winnable. I mean, Athletic Club is the only one that I can see really pushing us for this. But of course, I think that other teams also see the competition that way. You know, like United, Tottenham are looking at like their league play and like, yeah, we got nothing going on there.
Oh, I've already heard it from these fans of these sides who, again, they're just always drunk off of like their brand and we're Manchester United, we're Tottenham, we're gonna win Europa.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I could definitely see. I mean, these teams taking it very. I mean, really going all in on that. So I think we need to make a commitment too of just like, hey, like we need to just I think we should 100% need to win this. Like, I think this is really. I would say this may sound crazy to people, but I would say it's ours to lose. That may be a hot take. I'm not sure. I genuinely believe this competition is ours to lose.
Well, you heard it, folks. Here we are, Europa League champions to come. No, this will be really interesting to see how Baroni balances it. We obviously got a feel for it in group stage, but now that we start looking at knockouts and we're in the quarterfinals of Coppa Italia, it will be interesting to see how he balances and how he approaches all 3 competitions. As always, follow us across all of our social platforms. Like, subscribe to our channel on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple, wherever you listen to your podcast. But win, lose, draw, Coppa Italia, Europa, or Serie A, it is sempre Forza